Coming up on this week's edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
We'll hear from the NCBA president about a recent trade mission and how that'll help U.S. beef producers. Plus, we talk with Merck Animal Health about best practices ahead of spring turnout.
And now, NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. I'm Russell Nemitz. Well, U.S. beef exports remain red hot these days, as this year's demand is already ahead of last year's record-setting pace. And those impressive numbers are due in part to NCBA's efforts to remove trade barriers and to expand export opportunities in other countries. Now, here to talk about trade opportunities for the U.S. beef industry is NCBA President and Minnesota producer Don Schiefelbein. And Don, you just returned home from a trade mission to the United Kingdom. And we know that the British are also securing trade agreements with Australia, New Zealand, and potentially even Canada. Are the British really interested in a trade deal with the United States?
Absolutely. You know, one thing that's really changed the face of everything is when you have a war on your continent, everything changes. And now it's deciding who do we want to do relationships with? And they're deciding, boy, isn't it important that instead of having our primary trading partners being Russia and China and Ukraine, that maybe it makes a lot of sense to incorporate the United States with our shared values and, of course, access to the best beef in the world.
Of course, a major focus of your trip was educating British officials and consumers about the U.S. cattle industry and our production practices, something the British media has treated unfairly in the past. So what are the similarities in how we produce cattle, and what did you tell them about how we do things here at home?
Well, you know, their image is so different from the reality of what we have here in the United States. If you were just to ask them point blank, what does the U.S. production mean to you? They are thinking we raise cattle in groups of tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of cattle. So when we told them that we were basically just family farmers who raised the cattle in groups of 40, you could have seen their eyes get incredibly large, and the shock on their face was incredible because their image was much, much different. And then as we began to talk, and as is usually the case, the similarities began to be much, much stronger than they ever realized. They didn't realize we were just a collection of small family operations who were raising beef with the integrity of everything that is dear to them, including the environment in mind.
Now in February, British Ambassador Dame Karen Pierce talked about sustainability when she spoke at the Cattle Industry Convention and NCBA trade show. And one of the reasons for your trip was to discuss our sustainable production practices. So how was that conversation received in your meetings with Parliament, and do they share similar views?
You know, they were extremely excited the fact that we had set some goals with regard to sustainability. They were impressed with the fact that when we got right to it, as you know, that the more you can do with less, the better your sustainability score is. And nobody does that better than the United States. So we do more with less better than anybody in the world. And therefore, it's encouraging when you talk to them about sustainability that really it's a strength of the American system, not a downside. The other thing I'll share is that initially that's all the whole consumers talked about was sustainability, et cetera. But again, as this whole dynamics changes, climate smart and sustainability terms really got substituted for terms like, boy, food security is very important. We got to make sure we have the availability and access to food in a manner that allows us to feed our population. So that actually moved more front and center than sustainability, just timing-wise as we arrived.
Don, one of the benefits of engaging with consumers in other countries is learning more about how they perceive us. What are one or two misconceptions you were able to address during your recent visit to the United Kingdom?
Well, I mentioned the one about size. That was huge. They thought we were basically these huge factory farms. The other belief that they just had just no idea is we were talking about grass-fed beef versus corn-fed beef. Their understanding of corn-fed beef in their eyes was that the calf was taken away from mama basically at day one and fed corn all of its life. When they found out that really our production system was staying on grass with mama up until the last 3 or 4 months of their lives, guess what? It turned out like our system was very similar to theirs. And in fact, their grass-fed system really finishes their animals on grain for the last 6 months of their life as well. So the similarities were very, very strong.
And finally, what was your biggest takeaway from this recent trip to the UK?
It's what I always find when I meet people from other land, and that is, boy, the similarities are much, much, much stronger than the differences. And governments a lot of times maybe get in the way of getting these relationships built. But if you pull away the government and the rules and the regulations, the people really want to do business with other good people. And I was very impressed with the quality of people that we met and their genuine interest in wanting to secure the best beef product, the United States beef, into their homeland. So it was very encouraging.
All right, Don, thank you so much for joining us here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, and of course, for your service to the beef industry.
Thank you very much.
One way you can support NCBA's work on trade is by becoming a member. By doing so, you'll add your voice to the work NCBA does in defending and advocating for our industry in Washington, D.C., and with our critical export markets. And it's easy to do. Just call 866-233-3872 or visit the website ncba.org. Still ahead, we've got a look at things you can do before spring turnout to help improve the health as well as profitability of your herd. And we'll check the weather with Matt Makins.
Matt Makins here. In this week's Weather Watch, we're chatting about the temperatures and also the precipitation trends as we go through the next 3 months. I'll take you through June straight ahead.
Getting to run a family farm is a dream come true. When you can grow good grass, there's opportunity to grow plenty of weeds. We want to use the tools that will help us do a better job. I would like the legacy to be that we took really good care of the land and we truly did it as a passion and we did our very best for the right reasons.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell. Retailers, shopping channels, and now even banks have tried canceling myself and MyPillow. Well, during these times, your support has meant everything to us. My employees and I want to personally thank each and every one of you by passing the savings directly onto you. For a limited time, you can get my brand new product, My Slippers, for 50% off. That's the lowest price ever. And remember, My Slippers come with an exclusive 4-layer design. These layers combine to give you amazing comfort and support and help reduce stress on your feet. And with the durable indoor-outdoor sole, you can wear My Slippers anytime, anywhere. I personally guarantee these will be the most comfortable slippers you'll ever own. So go to MyPillow.com now and use the promo code on your screen or call the 1-800 number below to get My Slippers for 50% off, the lowest price in history. And if you do it right now, I'm going to include a free gift with your purchase. Thank you and God bless.
For cattle producers, decisions you make in the spring can make a real impact on the amount of profit you'll see in the fall. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Brian Baxter has a look at some valuable steps you should take early in the year to help protect and to enhance the health and well-being of your cattle herd.
Diebel Cattle Company has been in business near the Texas Gulf Coast for almost 130 years. In fact, Stephen Diebel is the 5th generation of his family to raise cattle in this part of the Lone Star State.
This operation began back in the early 1890s, predominantly a cow-calf operation, but over the years we've expanded to encompass more holistically not only cow-calf but stocker, We background some calves and we retain ownership as well. So from a diversification perspective, we're involved in the whole chain.
This kind of longevity wouldn't be possible without the Diebel family's commitment to the health of their cattle.
Herd health is a big component to our economic successes. Here on the ranch, sick cattle transmit to more dollars that you would not have otherwise spent. So our health protocols and our health regimens are very, very important and something that we just don't compromise on.
Vaccination is one of the best methods to protect a herd from infections and disease. While the type of vaccine you use is important, proper timing is also essential. They should be administered in the spring before releasing cattle to pasture to help ensure better health and performance during the summer months.
Our health protocol for our calves begins at branding time. They'll get a modified live at branding. Those calves are typically 60 to 90 days old. And results have shown that the cattle have gone to the feed yard and done very, very well, because I think we've done all of our homework in the beginning.
At the end of the day, that's the whole goal, is to create calves and sell pounds. And what you do now will have a big influence on what happens down the line when you market your calves and getting ready for calving again.
Many operations like Diebel Cattle Company have turned to intranasal vaccines to help boost newborn calf immunity. Intranasal vaccines don't just differ from injectable vaccines in the route of administration, they actually spur a different immune response in cattle.
So when calves are born and they drink colostrum, that first milk, they get a lot of antibodies and immune protection from mom. And some vaccines can't override that. And so we don't stimulate an immune response in that calf. Or these vaccines, this Bovillus nasogen 3-PMH, does a good job of stimulating the calf's own immune system without having a negative effect on the maternal antibodies that it received from the colostrum. Another benefit of the Bovillus nasogen 3-PMH is it's the only intranasal vaccine on the market right now that incorporates the most common respiratory viruses as well as the two most common bacterial pathogens, all in one convenient package.
While it's not difficult to administer the intranasal vaccines, it does need to be done properly.
It's not the traditional method of administering a vaccination. So there is a bit of a learning curve people have to be aware of. Like our Bovillus nasogen 3-PMH, it has this blue shadow dye to let you know that you actually got it into that calf. When you're administering this vaccine, it's important that you actually get it into the nasal cavity. You don't have to get it very far, but at least past the opening of the nostril, and squirt it in there and expect it to mist up and then some of it to run out. That's okay. As long as it makes contact with that mucosal surface inside the nose, it's going to work.
Vaccinations aren't the only health and performance measures the experts at Merck recommend for your calves in the spring.
When you're considering spring turnout, another very important consideration is going to be the parasites, and that's internal parasites and that's external parasites. We're coming out of the winter, coming into the spring. We've got spring grasses coming up. We really want to make sure that the worm burden, internal parasite burden, is reduced. There's a lot of evidence that shows that parasitized cattle reduce the amount of dry matter intake. The other thing to visit with the veterinarian about is external parasites, fly control and tick control. There's also evidence that shows that a certain number of flies on an animal reduces performance and production, is damaging to them. So if we can reduce that, then that's going to help with efficiencies and help everything move forward in a positive fashion. So visiting about parasite control is very important.
Another early season strategy is to add a growth implant to your calves. This can improve an animal's rate and efficiency of gain.
So another tool that we have available to us that can increase the success of the spring turnout is the use of implants, especially on these calves. And there's a few options, like Rowgrow is a suckling calf implant, Revlor G is a grazing calf implant, after weaning. And the benefit of implants is it really makes them more efficient, and they can actually utilize even poorer quality roughages that a calf that's not implanted could. And it's one of the very few things we can do in the cattle industry to actually count on a return on this investment. So to kind of summarize everything we're talking about with spring turnout, the decisions and the management practices that are done at spring turnout do have an impact in the fall when it comes time to marketing these calves and trying to increase your profits.
Not only does Merck have the products to create a well-rounded herd health program, they also have an expert support team to answer questions and provide advice.
We have the really big advantages of utilizing Merck's veterinarians and our local vet as well. I think they're the experts, and they help us develop those plans and those protocols. And what's really nice is they're a phone call away.
And that's why it's so important to have a good relationship with the veterinarian so that you can tailor those vaccine programs to your operation and the goals of what you're doing.
Getting each animal to perform to their full potential is the ultimate objective, and the right practices, including vaccinations, deworming, and implants, ensure they reach that goal. Reporting from Texas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
For more information on Merck's lineup of cattle health products that can help your farm or ranch meet any challenges, just visit their website, MerckAnimalHealthUSA.com. Still to come here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, see how the Natural Resources Conservation Service is helping an Alabama family protect and improve their land. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
From the very beginning, Richie has been dedicated to one thing: helping people deliver fresh, constant water to their animals. Today's Richie Waterers rely on a valve design that remains much the same as it was in 1921. It's a simple idea: do it right, and the rest will take care of itself. We never set out to create a company that would be around for 100 years. We just wanted to create something great.
Nasalgen 3 is a new 3-way intranasal BRD vaccine that offers young calves unrivaled protection against devastating respiratory diseases, including IBR, BRSV, and PI3. And it has a unique blue shadow, so there's no second guessing which animals have been vaccinated. To up your protection, choose new Nasalgen 3 PMH, the first and only 5-way intranasal vaccine on the market. Talk to your veterinarian and visit nasalgen.com to learn more.
Time now for Weather Watch with meteorologist Matt Makins.
Last time we chatted about kind of the drought situation, some surface water, stream flows and things for the spring and early summer. In this week's Weather Watch, let's chat about the April outlook and then the April through June outlook. There have been some notable changes happening in the weather pattern here over the last couple of weeks, so we'll touch on that first before we get to the outlook. So April so far has shown some change, and that change has been across the Pacific Northwest. This is early still, half the month, where we have precipitation shown across the country. The Pacific Northwest has shown some changes, finally getting some water. It's been quite dry here and also in California following December, but finally Oregon, Washington getting a little bit of water. So that's some change there. As far as the temperature pattern, we're still looking at colder than average temperatures in the greens, warmer than average in the yellows and oranges, but we're seeing kind of a shift here of these warmest temperatures, or excuse me, coldest temperatures that will be shoved up to the north and west as we go throughout the next several months. Heat will stay and build, kind of reinforce itself there across the southwest. So as far as changes, really it's the precipitation across the Pacific Northwest that has been the biggest change in April. Let's take a look at the outlook for temperatures and precipitation for the month, starting off with precip. As you look at the map, very dry across the west and southwest. There is some of that moisture indicated, kind of the white shades here, so we'll be near normal by the end of the month for the Pacific Northwest, mostly the Cascades there. But we'll also have water in the upper Midwest, around the Tennessee Valley, and out across the east. As far as the driest locations, again, west and southern states, sadly. As far as temperatures are concerned, where we had all that cold, kind of centered around the northern plains out to the east so far this month, that will continue to hold true. We'll probably begin to warm up in the New England states, around Florida, and certainly staying hot across the southwest. So how does this outlook change as we get into April and June? Very little change in terms of the precipitation and temperature outlook. We're still looking at temperatures to stay somewhat cooler than average the next 3 months for the northern plains, at times around mid-Mississippi, Tennessee valleys or so. Very warm, very dry down across the southwest. And then as we look at the precipitation, we'll be closest to normal in the Pacific Northwest, but very dry, very droughty there, if you will, across the west and southwest, and areas of moisture will be mostly off to the east and also the upper Midwest. So that gets us caught up on the situation where we are now in April and the next 3 months.
Well, the USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is a valuable partner for farmers and ranchers who want to protect their land and water. Let's head now to Alabama for a look at how the NRCS provided an Alabama family there with technical and financial assistance to help reach their conservation goals. Father and son Stanley and Andy Sumners are the second and third generation of their family to live and farm in this part of northeast Alabama. And they've raised South Pole cattle since 2006, a breed developed by Teddy Gentry, who is best known as a member of the band Alabama.
South Pole breed was developed by Teddy Gentry in the early to mid 90s, and he developed a cow that he felt was optimal on a grass-fed operation. South Pole is made up of Barzona, Hereford, Centerpole, and Red Angus. It's a four-way composite.
We have a registered full-blood herd of South Pole cattle, about 100 mama cows, and we produce seed stock for the South Pole breeders. The guys that we've been selling our steers to have seemed to be well satisfied with them. We've had customers that's come back year after year to, get more South Poles. Seem like their customers enjoy eating the South Pole beef, and so it's just worked great for us.
The Sumners believe that properly managing their operations' natural resources, like the soil and water, contributes to the success of their cattle business.
We want to make the wisest use of our resources. We absolutely don't want to destroy any resource or waste any resource. We always want to make sure it's sustainable, and what we take out, we be sure and put back into the land. And we want the land to be healthy, as soil is healthy. I mean, that's everything to us here on the farm, is how good the soil is, the ability to grow grass.
Over the years, the Sumners have worked with USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service to better manage the farm's soil and water. The NRCS team evaluated the operation and offered advice on practices that could help improve their resources. One important early step was to implement a strip grazing plan, which uses movable electric fencing to confine the cattle in a small section of pasture for a short time.
When I say strip grazing, we're talking anywhere from 1/4 of an acre to 1/3 of an acre for about 50 head of cattle. The way we do it on our farm, we turn the cattle end on that 1/3 of an acre, and we limit graze them. In other words, we're out there, and according to the depth of the forage that exist out there, we may allow the cattle to stay out there 30 minutes or 45 minutes, hardly ever an hour, but we just sort of watch. We want the cattle to eat about 1/3 of the forage out there, just that top third, which is very nutritious, and they enjoy eating that. And we move them strip by strip across the field, and within about 3 to 4 weeks, we're back to that original strip. And if we've got decent moisture and all, it's ready to graze again.
Overgrazing is still probably one of our biggest resource concerns that we have. Results in greatly diminished root systems of the plants. And so rotational grazing, even on some intensity scale, whether it's high or low, allows the plants to replenish their root reserves, so they get more production coming back, they're able to recover better, and we have better infiltration from that. It helps to reduce compaction, it helps reduce runoff, and so we're improving our nutrient management as well as our grazing.
We've seen now that with our grazing management practices and all, that we can make the soil better over the whole entire farm. I can come out here at any time and just we've done a little test with a rod, and I can push a rod down, 4 or 5 feet in the ground with just one hand. And that tells me that the soil is really good. I can come out here with a shovel, and the whole shovelful is going to have just lots and lots of earthworms, grub worms, and you can see the kind of the canals is what I call them in the soil. And the roots is down in there too. And that tells me that I've got some good soil.
For a grazing plan to really work, cattle need access to a reliable water source. So NRCS helped the Sumners install water troughs and heavy use pads to help protect the land and to allow for better distribution of cattle within the pastures.
We devised a plan, and we tried to put something in that would give them a good quality water source and allow them to better utilize this part of the farm. We tied into the municipal system up at the barn, run the pipeline down, and put our water trough and heavy use area in. Heavy use areas are very important, and this aspect is because of the mud. You get into the winter time, you can have a mud factor. It's just not good for cattle to be standing in. We've gone to putting in the concrete heavy use areas, gives cattle a good stable pad to stand on. There's no mud problems, just seems to work a lot better here.
NRCS offers not only technical and design support, but also cost sharing to help put plans into practice.
Financial systems, it just makes things a little bit more achievable. I think the bottom line on these farms are so razor thin between profit and loss. I think it just gives them an incentive to put in practices where they may not have done it otherwise.
Me and my wife got married in 1975, which seems like a long time ago now. We were able to buy the 40-acre old cotton farm that was next door to us, which it didn't have any pasture on at all. NRCS cooperated with me and done cost share on planting permanent pasture in that field there. And even today, I'm still grazing cattle on that original fescue pasture. So that meant everything to us because we were just starting out from scratch. At the Sumner's farm, the land and cattle are healthy and thriving, and they believe that other farmers and ranchers can benefit from NRCS financial and technical assistance for their own conservation projects.
It needs to be something that they're passionate about, something that they want to do. Sometimes I think where our role comes in is to kind of show them some things they may not have thought about or seen or wanted to do, and try to steer them in the right direction. Ultimately, it is their decision on how they put practices in, how they manage their farm.
At the end of the day, we were able to have a few more cattle on the farm due to what practices that we implement here on the farm. And in turn, that gives us a little bit more, return on the farm.
They're willing to work with us. If we want something changed or do something different, they can come up with a technical type plan that sometimes I wouldn't even understand how to do it, but they have the ability to show us some different ways to divide up pastures, the water capabilities, and how to make it work with our grazing plan. So NRCS has been great to work with.
Reporting from Alabama, I'm Russell Nimitz for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. And it's easy to get started on your own conservation projects. All you have to do is just call your local NRCS office or visit the website nrcs.usda.gov to learn about the technical and financial assistance that NRCS can provide. Still ahead here on Cattlemen to Cattlemen, we've got a look at some very exciting technology that can help provide pasture weed control as well as fertilization in one easy step. That story when we return, so stay with us.
Cattle producers across the country work hard to care for their animals and their land. The USDA's Natural Resources Conservation Service is there to help. Find out how you can work with NRCS to develop a conservation plan for your operation. Find possible funding resources for implementing conservation practices, or get free expert advice on ways to improve your farm or ranch. Visit the website nrcs.usda.gov today.
Join the National Cattlemen's Beef Association. NCBA is the oldest cattle industry organization, working every day to defend your interests in Washington, D.C. And there are big benefits to being a member. You'll get news you can use in the National Cattlemen and policy updates from Beltway Beef, plus big discounts from John Deere, Cabela's, and more great partners. Join now. Call 866-233-3872 or sign up online at ncba.org.
Cattle producers know the value of grazed forages, and improving pasture production means better feed for your cattle and more profit potential for your entire operation. Cattlemen to Cattlemen reporter Matt Fleck takes us now to north central Arkansas for a look at an exciting technology that can put more grass in your fields and more money in your pocket.
Growing more grass gives cattle producers their lowest cost opportunity to put more pounds on their cattle. That, however, is often easier said than done.
Producers need to pay attention to the weeds in the pastures because they are crowding out competing good forages. Every bite of grass that cow takes or that stock or calf takes, you want it to be something that's going to be nutritious and is going to lead to putting pounds of beef on that animal's skeleton.
Weed control is a big deal. When it gets hot and dry in the summertime, if that grass is having to compete with a lot of weeds, you're losing all that. That's our number one fight is weeds.
For every pound of weeds you have in your pasture, that's going to remove 1 to 1.5 pounds of grass. And many of these weeds are not palatable to cattle, and some of them are even robbing your yields because they will cause grazing avoidance. They have stickers and they're a pain for cattle, so cattle will tend to avoid them. If you have weeds, you don't have as much forage for your cattle production. Either you're going to have to reduce your carrying capacity, so you'll have to sell off cattle earlier than you wanted to, or you'll have to purchase feed and hay, and forage grown in your pastures is often the lowest cost forage you have. So if you have poor forage, you have to buy more hay. That's more expensive for your bottom line.
Fertilizing Pastures is a tool many producers use to boost forage growth, but fertilizer alone does not address the issues of weed control.
Most of our producers fertilize their hay fields religiously, and then pastures are as needed. If they're stocking more cattle, they'll fertilize their pastures, and that just helps them grow more grass and raise more cattle. On pastures, if they put fertilizer on their pastures or hay fields and no weed control, they're growing pounds of weeds also. And so with some weed controls, it makes a big difference on their production.
Most of the producers in my area that are truly trying to realize a net profit are very interested in all the aspects of pasture management, and they're always looking for new ways to do things.
New Graze pasture weed and feed from Corteva AgriScience allows farmers and ranchers to address both pasture fertility and weed control at the same time and at the right time.
Graze is our new service offering whereby certified Graze pasture weed and feed retailers can deliver both your fertility needs and your weed control in one pass. Historically, what we've needed to do is to go over your pasture with a fertilizer application and then come back with a second separate application to spray for your weeds. This is a process whereby we can combine the two, saving you the cost of a second application and delivering not only fertility, but weed control at the same time.
The advantage of that for our farmers are window of application. Sometimes there's only 2 hours a week that's fit to go out and spray because the wind's blowing, chance of rain's coming, something like that. The benefit on putting it in the fertilizer is the window of application is a lot broader. It gives them more chance to get out and get the product applied in a timely fashion.
You get your fertilizer put on, you get some nutrients added to your soil, and you're getting weed control that they never could get before. And they're getting it early enough to do a good job. They're not waiting till the weeds are mature, and then sometimes we'd have failures with herbicides, and lots of times it was due because they were spraying too late. Now they're getting timely applications of herbicide and getting fertilizer on both at the proper timing, and it's been just a win-win for using both of those technologies.
For Brandon Olson and his customers, seeing pasture health is only one benefit of Graze. Not only does the one-pass application process save time, but since cattle don't have to be moved off pastures before or after treatment, it also saves in labor.
The results we've seen have been very, very good, better than we had assumed, because most of this research has been 85 to 90% control compared to spraying. We're seeing 100% control of spraying just because they're getting out there earlier when the weeds are smaller. All our customers have been very happy with the results that they've received. We believe that the impregnating fertilizer is as accurate as spraying, if not more accurate, just because of the evenness you get, and it doesn't matter if the wind's blowing 10, 12 mile an hour. You can get right up next to the fence and know that that's where it stops. So that's a good benefit.
I had 60 acres that I used it on in the spring. I think we got it on at the last of March, maybe 1st of April, which this year I intend on using it and getting out there a little quicker. We was having a bit of a thistle issue. We was having some ragweed issue. And so we used it, and on that 60 acres this year, I don't think I had 3 thistles on the whole deal. There was no ragweed whatsoever. My grass was, thicker, better, a lot healthier. Once we got the weeds out of the way, the grass kind of come along and blanketed and covered the ground. And I feel like my cattle done better. They stayed healthier, looked better. It just lets you keep your grass in better shape to withstand a drought, the adverse effect of the weather might put on it.
If you talk about a healthy stand of grass being a very good mechanism to suppress weeds, then you ask, okay, what goes into keeping and maintaining a healthy stand of grass? So obviously it all begins with the soil test to know what the fertility needs are. When we talk about establishing a healthy pasture, it's fertility, it's weed control. When we talk about maintaining a healthy pasture, that's when we start getting into rotational grazing, not overgrazing, and making sure that that pasture goes into the fall a healthy, vigorous stand of grass.
Graze pasture weed and feed is exciting technology to help pastures thrive. It is available through a network of certified applicators in 22 states.
As a producer, if you're dealing with a certified Graze weed and feed retailer, what you know is that retailer has gone through extensive education and training so that they know how to do the blending of the herbicide onto the fertilizer. They're using dedicated equipment and they have the highest standards of product stewardship. So you're going to be getting the fertility needs you are desiring, and you're going to be getting the appropriate herbicide for your individual pasture needs. If you happen to have your own application equipment, whether it's a truck or a buggy, and it's dedicated to pasture, then you will be able to go to your Graze retailer, get your blended impregnated fertilizer, and you'll be able to deliver it on and to apply it to your own pastures.
We're here to help our producers, make them be more productive. They have a few more cows, that means they have a little bit more money to spend and more pickups to drive, and it helps the economy all the way around.
Reporting from Harrison, Arkansas, I'm Matt Fleck for NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen.
Want to learn more about the benefits of using a product in your pastures that combines a herbicide with a fertilizer? Well, just visit the website altagraze.com/C2C. Still to come, we'll introduce you to a company that's taking a ranch-to-table approach and bringing delicious Akashi beef to consumers. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Well, farm or ranch to table can mean different things to different people, but at its heart, the term means monitoring an individual animal as it moves through the beef production cycle to make sure that it's raised in a safe, humane, and environmentally sustainable manner. It's a concept that Heart Brand Beef has embraced as they make every effort to help ensure that the Akashi beef you eat is both great tasting and healthy. Here's a closer look at how they're putting that into action at a restaurant in Houston.
Howdy everyone, I'm Jojo Corrales. I'm the Vice President of Cattle Operations at Heart Brand, and we are excited today to be here in Houston at Brenner's on the Bayou, and we're with Chef Ryan back here in his awesome kitchen. We are introducing this ranch to table concept of being a rancher ourselves and just doing all we can do to make you a better product, and wanting to see how you like grilling it up today, what you feel Heart Brand brings to your restaurant that differentiates yourself from the others, and just kind of what you think about the product and kind of first of all kind of how you'd like to prepare it.
Well, here at Brenner's on the Bayou, we just season it with salt and pepper and we put it in the broiler. Cook it for about 6-7 minutes roughly on each side, to get a medium rare to medium, depending on the guest's desired temperature, of course. I have enjoyed cooking Heart Brand. The Akaushi is fantastic. We have 3 different cuts of steaks on our menu. The ribeye is fantastic, the strip is fantastic, and then the skirt steak, honestly, it's my favorite steak. And I appreciate you guys for making such a quality product.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, that's something that we feel as beef producers, the demand for high quality beef has gotten stronger and stronger. And you reiterated that earlier of just as your time as a chef, an executive chef, how much more your customers are wanting to know where their product comes from, wanting to know what goes in their body and what's being raised. So yeah, we're excited that Brenner's, as well as known as they are, chooses a product like Heart Brand, and we're excited to be in your restaurant.
I've heard rumors about how Akaushi and how the whole Wagyu cattle started in Texas. I've heard some wacky rumors. You got to tell me what's the real?
Yeah, I've heard
story?
that. I've heard the same rumor as well. So in the mid '90s, I think 1994, there was a group of cows and bulls that came over from Japan. So they flew out in a Boeing 747 into the United States and made their way down to Texas. So the herd that Heart Brand has now is the set that came over in the mid '90s, and we've been able to maintain the purity of that breed all the way through, and really, I mean, it's something that we take a lot of pride in, making sure that what we have, as Akaushi are truly Akaushi cattle.
So interesting, very interesting. So I was told it was Pablo Escobar, but.
So Chef, I know you have all the options in the world to buy for this great restaurant and steakhouse, and a restaurant that's known for some of the best steaks in the area. So what makes you choose your different quality grades, and what do you see as the benefit of having Heart Brand's Akaushi versus just normal USDA Prime?
Well, one, I've been here for quite a while. I've been at Brenner's on the Bayou for a little over 12 years, and I've put on all kinds of different steaks from different ranches, and Akaushi has been our #1 selling steak that is not prime. So of course that is the one that I'm gonna stick with. It's not really something you can describe. I mean, the proof is in the pudding. You gotta taste it. You gotta try it. That's why I try to let my servers taste some of the steaks. So I try to educate and inform our employees, and that way they know how to properly sell the steak to the customer.
So cattlemen are one of the most traditional type people in the world. Like, they just don't like to change, very often. They like to keep doing what they have done for a very long time. So you have to have something that gets their attention. So one definitely thing is their bottom line of how much money they get for their animal. And Akaushi cattle bring more money into their programs. I mean, that's definitely something that gets their attention. And then just seeing how much marbling the Akaushi can add to their cow base is something that they key in on. And then just introducing them to how we sell meat. So that's something that, when you opened up your box, that's something that is new to most cattlemen, is how meat gets to the end user. It's through those big chain distributors, and we gotta follow the lines of how you buy product. So, I'm not out here giving you one steak out of my back of my truck and going back to the ranch. I mean, we have to fit into your supply chain and how you receive product, and how you want to receive it, and if you want to cut 16-ounce steaks or if you want to cut 14-ounce steaks. I mean, you have the ability to do that, and if, on the aging process too, however long you want to age it. I mean, so you can be very specific to your niche of what you want to give your customer. So Chef, as cattlemen, we don't get to have that face-to-face interaction like you and your staff do. So it's a privilege for us to have this relationship with a great restaurant like we do, and get that feedback, like you said. So what message would you give to the cattlemen out there in the United States, and what message would you give them to tell them what your customers are wanting and maybe what they could improve on to give our beef consumer a better product?
It takes a lot of work to get this quality on the plate. So I appreciate everything you guys are doing already. The guests seem to really enjoy it, and I really enjoy it. So yeah, everything that you're doing, just keep it up. It's great.
With the higher prices we've seen in the last 12 months for prime beef, one trend that we're seeing in the high-end steakhouses is that most restaurants are looking for alternatives to these items to offer on their menus. Dry-aged and branded beef, items have seen a strong upswing as restaurant companies look to bring more higher-end products to customers. Moving forward, we will continue to see a trend of increased sales and branded programs and alternative high-end beef products. There are many competitors in this space, and the key is to develop either a brand name or partner with someone that can bring products to buyers. The restaurant business provides higher-end beef processors the opportunity to get in front of the customers very quickly. The key is to partner with restaurant companies not only to offer a consistent supply, but also offer them at a feasible price to everyone's menu.
Now, if you want to know more about Akashi cattle or how to purchase some great cuts of beef or just pick up some recipes and cooking tips, visit heartbrandbeef.com. We've got more Cattlemen to Cattlemen still ahead, so stay with us. We'll be right back.
These are the pennies it costs for Alticid IGR protection, making it one of the best values in the market designed specifically for fighting hornflies on pasture. As a supplement, Alticid IGR is part of what you're already doing, and as a feed-through, what your cattle are always doing. Take shelter from the swarm for just 2 to 3 cents per animal per day. That's just $4.50 per animal per season. For hornfly protection that has been performing for over 40 years with no known resistance. Alticid IGR.
You have an upcoming production sale to advertise? Then contact the Cattlemen to Cattlemen marketing team or your breed association to learn more.
Technology is changing how we manage our land and our livestock, and with me today is Ray Williams, the Director of Technical Operations for Gallagher, a company that prides itself in being the next generation in animal management. Ray, thanks for being with us today.
I'm glad to be here with you.
We're standing in front of these wireless load bars, and I'm just curious, how impactful do you think these are going to be to the industry? What's going to be the impact of these?
Well, one of the main pain points of load bars in general is the cords that come out of the load bars and are threaded up through the equipment and usually connected to the scale, of course, but they look delicious and they get eaten quite a bit by calves and others. And as well, the little varmints that come in and try to chew on the cords.
Right.
So by eliminating that now, of course, we have no cords. It transmits directly to a phone app or to the scale head, and this takes all that away and makes it really, really practical to have no cord. And so we're building that in a 22-inch bar that will be put in the alleyway.
Yep.
For those that do that, and then underneath the squeeze chute. So we have an 11,000 pound capacity bar that, we can put it on.
Single bar?
There's 2 bars under the squeeze chute.
Yeah.
So, but they hold 11,000 pound capacity. So we can put the biggest hydraulic chutes on top of this stuff.
Wow.
As well as any of the manual chutes that are out there.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about another issue in the industry, which is traceability, right? We talk about animal ID and traceability. Why is this such an important issue? And tell me about some of the products you have that can improve our animal traceability.
Well, traceability, being not required yet in the United States has been kind of a topic that both good and bad that have come to pass. But in our line of business, it's about economics and tying information about an animal directly to that number. So for import-export, it's huge. It's a must. But in a normal operation, I can attach all of the animal data, the life data, the traits and activities, and all of that to that number. So I now can manage my herd much more efficiently by having that data collected at chute side and then fed into software that can help me look at the dynamics and all the metrics of our system.
And speaking of collecting that data at chute side, let's talk about some of the technology that you have relative to everything from the load bars to the scale heads and the hand readers. Tell me more about what Gallagher offers in that area.
We're looking at an ecosystem of equipment that all works together in concert. So we are gathering data with our scales, and we can enter traits and activities on the scale, and then our readers actually act independently of the scale sometimes, because I can walk around and do medications, or I'm calving, and I can put calving data into the reader. But then when I want to hook them together, they with a Bluetooth signal, they can come together and they can bring that EID right into the scale. But also being able to transfer that data simply into the cloud and have it available on all of my devices, so I can now, look at all of my metrics. I can make notes in the field and have it come right back to my system. So eventually, if I'm looking at all kinds of different metrics in my field and in my operation, I can drink a cup of coffee in the morning and look at what my animals are doing and have all these metrics at fingertip.
Very impressive, the ecosystem you're developing that really is seamless and allows us to both capture and utilize information in altogether new ways.
Yes, very much.
Thank you so much for your time today.
Glad to be here.
And if you'd like more information about the animal management systems offered by Gallagher, go to Gallagher.com.
Well, that wraps up this edition of NCBA's Cattlemen to Cattlemen. Thank you so much for spending time with us, and we'll see you again next week right here on RFD TV.